Good afternoon, everyone. It is truly a privilege to stand before you today and share some thoughts on an important topic that we all encounter in our lives: how to handle people who do not show us the respect we deserve. Myles Munroe, a renowned leader, speaker, and author, often spoke about the value of maintaining dignity and handling difficult situations with wisdom and grace. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 key strategies inspired by his teachings that can help us navigate relationships with those who don't show us respect. Maintaining your integrity and self-respect is one of the most important aspects of personal growth and emotional well-being. It serves as the foundation for how we relate to ourselves, to others, and how we allow others to treat us. Integrity is the quality of being honest, having strong moral principles, and standing firm in what you believe, even when faced with challenges. Self-respect is recognizing your own worth and treating yourself with dignity, regardless of external circumstances. In a world where people can sometimes be disrespectful, dismissive, or indifferent, maintaining your integrity and self-respect can be an empowering choice that will positively affect your mental health, your relationships, and the way you live your life. When we talk about integrity, we refer to the alignment between what we say and what we do. It's easy to act with integrity when everything is going well. However, it becomes much more challenging when others do not show us respect or when we're in difficult circumstances. Yet this is precisely when our integrity is tested the most. Remaining steadfast to our values, no matter the behavior of others, is a reflection of how deeply we understand the importance of integrity in our lives. Integrity isn't a quality that can be selectively applied. It must be maintained consistently in every situation, even when it is not convenient or when we are faced with disrespect. One of the most profound lessons about integrity is that it is a reflection of who you are, not necessarily a response to how others behave. Many people fall into the trap of allowing others' actions to define their own sense of identity and behavior. For example, when someone disrespects us or treats us poorly, we might be tempted to mirror their behavior, responding in anger, frustration, or bitterness. However, acting in such a way compromises our integrity. In moments when others act disrespectfully, maintaining your integrity means choosing a different path, choosing to act in accordance with your values, rather than reacting impulsively to someone else's negativity. By doing this, you take control of the situation and refuse to be drawn into a cycle of disrespect. What does this look like in practice? It means being honest even when it is difficult, standing by your principles even when others disagree, and living in alignment with your true self even when external circumstances might encourage you to do otherwise. For example, if you find yourself in a work environment where colleagues constantly undermine you or take credit for your work, maintaining your integrity means standing up for yourself in a way that is assertive yet not aggressive. You can calmly and clearly state your contributions, ask for credit when it is due, and request that boundaries be respected, all without sinking to the level of hostility or retaliation. Even when the other party doesn't act with integrity, you can still uphold your values. Equally important is the practice of self-respect. Self-respect is the understanding that you are worthy of kindness, fairness, and decency. It is not arrogance or conceit, but rather a recognition of your own value as a person. When we don't have self-respect, we allow others to mistreat us because we do not believe that we deserve better. Without self-respect, we may tolerate behaviors from others that violate our boundaries or make us feel devalued. We may fail to speak up when we should or accept circumstances that we should challenge. But self-respect requires you to believe deep down that you are worthy of being treated with dignity, regardless of whether or not others recognize that worth. The key to maintaining self-respect, particularly in the face of disrespect from others, is to set and enforce boundaries. Boundaries are the limits we establish to protect our physical, emotional, and psychological well-being. Without boundaries, we become vulnerable to mistreatment and manipulation. Establishing boundaries is an expression of self-respect, as it sends a clear message to others that you will not tolerate behavior that harms or devalues you. It can be difficult to enforce boundaries, particularly if you fear confrontation or the loss of a relationship. But doing so is essential for maintaining your integrity and your sense of self-worth. When you encounter people who don't respect you, it is essential to not internalize their behavior. Disrespect is often a reflection of the other person's own issues, insecurities, or lack of awareness, and it does not have anything to do with your value as a person. People who disrespect others may be unaware of the impact of their actions, or may act from a place of ignorance or a lack of emotional maturity. Understanding this can help you detach from their behavior and prevent you from taking their disrespect personally. It is critical not to let someone else's poor treatment of you define your self-worth. Remember, your value is not determined by how others see you, but by how you see yourself and how you choose to conduct yourself in the world. When we maintain our integrity and self-respect, we also show others how to treat us. Our actions and reactions set the tone for how others will interact with us. If you consistently stand firm in your values and make it clear that you won't tolerate disrespect, people are more likely to treat you with the same level of respect. In some cases, those who initially act dismissively may adjust their behavior when they see that you refuse to engage with their negativity. In other cases, people may not change, but your integrity will remain untarnished, and your self-respect will continue to serve as a shield against the toxicity of others. The process of maintaining your integrity and self-respect also involves developing emotional resilience. There will be times when others attempt to diminish your value or undermine your efforts. But in those moments, you must remember that your self-worth is not contingent upon external validation. It comes from within. When you maintain a strong sense of self-respect, you can withstand the impact of external negativity and remain focused on your goals, your values, and your purpose. People may criticize you, disrespect you, or fail to acknowledge your contributions, but as long as you know your worth and stay true to your beliefs, you will continue to grow and thrive. Integrity and self-respect are also deeply connected to personal peace. The more we act in alignment with our values, the more at peace we feel with ourselves. When we compromise our integrity, we may experience guilt, shame, or inner conflict. When we allow others to mistreat us because we lack self-respect, we may feel frustrated, resentful, or powerless. However, when we consistently uphold our integrity and protect our self-respect, we experience a sense of inner harmony. We know that we are acting in accordance with our highest self, and that knowledge brings peace of mind. It doesn't mean that life will be free of challenges or difficulties, but it does mean that we can face those challenges with confidence and grace, knowing that we are staying true to ourselves. In conclusion, maintaining your integrity and self-respect is not about perfection or avoiding conflict. Rather, it is about being true to yourself, regardless of external pressures. It is about recognizing your worth, holding fast to your values, and refusing to let others' disrespect define your sense of self. When you maintain your integrity and self-respect, you create a life that is authentic and fulfilling, grounded in the belief that you are deserving of dignity, fairness, and kindness. Even in the face of adversity, your integrity and self-respect will be your guiding lights, helping you navigate through life's challenges with strength, dignity, and wisdom. Setting boundaries and standing firm is a powerful practice that can significantly impact your personal well-being and the quality of your relationships. In a world where we are often expected to give, accommodate, and please others, it can be easy to lose sight of our own needs and values. Without boundaries, we can feel drained, disrespected, and overwhelmed, while our relationships may become strained or unhealthy. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define what we are willing to accept and what we are not, allowing us to protect our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Standing firm in these boundaries means that we not only communicate them to others, but also enforce them consistently and with confidence. In this way, boundaries become a tool of self-respect and a way of asserting our dignity in a world that often demands too much of us. Boundaries are essential because they create clarity in our relationships. Without them, we may find ourselves in situations where others take advantage of our time, energy, and resources. People may unknowingly or deliberately overstep our limits, expecting more from us than we are able or willing to give. Whether it is a colleague who constantly asks for favors at the expense of our own work, a friend who calls us late at night with personal problems, or a family member who demands our time without consideration of our own responsibilities, we may often feel helpless to stop these encroachments. When we lack boundaries, we may also feel that we have to please others, or go along with what they want in order to avoid conflict, or maintain their approval. However, this dynamic leads to resentment, burnout, and a sense of being trapped in relationships that do not serve our best interests. Set boundaries is an act of self-care. It is an acknowledgement that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable, and that you have the right to protect them. Boundaries are not about being selfish or rigid. Rather, they are a healthy and necessary part of any relationship. The key to effective boundary setting is recognizing that it is not the responsibility of others to protect your well-being. That is your job. You must take ownership of your own life and choices, and set boundaries that allow you to live authentically without constantly sacrificing yourself for others' needs or expectations. Standing firm in your boundaries is the next critical step. While it is important to set boundaries, it is just as crucial to stand firm in enforcing them. This is often where many people struggle. Setting boundaries can be uncomfortable, especially if you have been conditioned to please others or avoid confrontation. The fear of disappointing people, facing conflict, or even losing relationships can make boundary setting feel intimidating or impossible. However, standing firm in your boundaries is not about being confrontational or rigid. It is about making a clear statement to yourself and others that your well-being is non-negotiable. It is about recognizing that the value of your peace, energy, and mental health is more important than any temporary discomfort that may come from asserting your needs. For example, if you have set a boundary with a colleague who consistently interrupts your work to ask for help with their tasks, standing firm means that you do not give in to the pressure to continually drop what you are doing in order to assist them. It means politely but firmly saying no when they ask for assistance, explaining that you need to focus on your own responsibilities, encouraging them to take their time. This may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if the person is used to you always saying yes, but it is essential to stand your ground. Over time, they will come to understand that you have set a limit, and they will begin to respect your time and work. The same principle applies to other areas of life. If a family member continually calls you during your downtime or expects you to attend every family event, standing firm means respectfully communicating that you need personal space and time for your own interests and rest. While it may be challenging to assert this boundary, especially if your family has always had certain expectations of you, it is necessary for preserving your own mental and emotional health. Standing firm might mean saying no to an invitation, or setting a clear expectation that you will not be available at certain times. It could mean establishing limits on how much you are willing to give to others, whether in terms of time, money, or emotional support. You may need to remind others of these boundaries repeatedly, but standing firm is a way of teaching people how to treat you. The fear of disappointing others is one of the most common obstacles to boundary setting. People often worry that they will be perceived as selfish, uncaring, or rude if they assert their needs. In reality, setting boundaries is not about rejecting others, but about showing respect for both yourself and the other person. It is about recognizing that you cannot give your best if you are depleted, overextended, or resentful. If you are always saying yes to everyone else at the expense of your own well-being, you will eventually have nothing left to offer. By setting boundaries and standing firm in them, you ensure that you have the energy, space, and emotional capacity to engage in relationships from a place of strength and generosity. Furthermore, when you begin to set and enforce boundaries, you may be surprised at how others respond. In many cases, people will respect your boundaries once they understand that you are serious about them. Some may even feel relief themselves, knowing that they don't have to rely on you in a way that is unfair or unreasonable. It can be empowering for both parties to know that boundaries exist, as they help create a sense of mutual respect and understanding. However, not everyone will respect your boundaries, and that is where standing firm becomes even more important. If someone continually disregards your boundaries, you must be prepared to take further action. This may involve distancing yourself from the person or limiting your interactions with them. It could mean having a direct conversation about the impact of their behavior. Standing firm means being willing to enforce the boundaries you have set, even if it means facing resistance, discomfort, or a temporary shift in the relationship dynamic. Another aspect of setting boundaries is knowing when to say no. This can be one of the most difficult things for many people to do. We are often conditioned to be people pleasers, and saying no can feel like we are letting someone down or being unkind. However, saying no is an essential part of boundary setting. It is a simple yet powerful word that protects your time, your energy, and your priorities. Saying no is not an attack on others. It is simply an assertion of your own needs. It is saying, I value my time and my well-being enough to decline this request. Learning to say no gracefully is an essential skill in boundary setting. It doesn't require an explanation, a justification, or an apology. A simple, respectful no is often all that is needed. Standing firm in your boundaries also means being clear and consistent in your communication. If you set a boundary but then allow someone to overstep it without consequence, you send mixed messages about your commitment to that boundary. Being consistent is key to making sure your boundaries are respected. If you say no to a request one day, but give in the next time the same person asks, you undermine your own authority in the relationship. Consistency builds trust and reinforces your commitment to protecting your well-being. Over time, others will learn to respect your boundaries because they see that you consistently uphold them. It's also important to recognize that boundaries are not static. They can evolve over time depending on your changing needs and circumstances. What may have been an acceptable level of interaction with someone 6 months ago may no longer be acceptable today. As your priorities change, your boundaries may shift as well. It's important to regularly assess your boundaries and adjust them as needed, ensuring that they reflect your current values, goals, and emotional needs. This ongoing process of boundary setting and adjustment is a natural part of personal growth and self-care. In summary, setting boundaries and standing firm is a critical practice for maintaining your emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Boundaries help you define what is acceptable in your relationships, and standing firm in them ensures that you protect your own needs and values. It is an act of self-respect and self-care, as well as a way of teaching others how to treat you. By being clear, consistent, and confident in asserting your boundaries, you create an environment in which you can thrive, and you invite others to engage with you in a way that honors both your needs and theirs. Standing firm in your boundaries may be challenging at first, but it is ultimately a powerful tool for creating healthier, more balanced relationships and a more fulfilling life. Responding with compassion and wisdom is an essential practice in navigating life's complexities, especially when confronted with challenges, conflicts, or disrespect from others. The idea of responding with compassion and wisdom involves taking a step back from immediate reactions and instead approaching situations with a calm, thoughtful, and empathetic mindset. It is about recognizing the humanity of others, understanding their struggles, and choosing to engage with them in a way that fosters understanding, healing, and mutual respect. This approach not only helps to diffuse tension and conflict, but also strengthens relationships, nurtures emotional resilience, and fosters personal growth. Responding with compassion and wisdom is not a passive or weak stance. It is a deliberate, courageous choice that requires emotional maturity, self-awareness, and a deep sense of empathy for both ourselves and others. At its core, compassion is the ability to feel for another person's pain, suffering, or struggle, and to wish to alleviate it in some way. Compassion goes beyond sympathy, which is simply feeling sorry for someone. It involves actively engaging with the pain of others in a way that is both supportive and constructive. Compassion allows us to acknowledge the vulnerability of others without judgment, recognizing that we are all, at different points in our lives, struggling in some way. Responding with compassion involves listening deeply to others, understanding their emotional needs, and offering our support, encouragement, or even just a moment of kindness. It is not about fixing their problems or offering solutions, but rather about creating a space where they feel heard, seen, and valued. Wisdom, on the other hand, is the ability to discern the right course of action in any given situation based on knowledge, experience, and reflection. Wisdom is the fruit of maturity and comes from a combination of self-awareness, understanding of human nature, and insight into the bigger picture. It is the ability to pause before reacting, to assess a situation from multiple angles, and to choose a response that aligns with our values, purpose, and the long-term well-being of all involved. Wisdom allows us to make decisions that are not impulsive or driven by emotions, but are thoughtful, measured, and grounded in a sense of balance. When we respond with wisdom, we take into account not only the immediate impact of our actions, but also the potential long-term consequences, ensuring that our responses are constructive, positive, and beneficial in the long run. In a world where instant gratification, emotional reactions, and divisiveness often dominate our interactions, responding with compassion and wisdom can feel like a radical act. It requires patience and a deep commitment to emotional intelligence, which involves not only recognizing and managing our own emotions, but also understanding and responding to the emotions of others in a way that is respectful and empathetic. This approach is especially important when dealing with individuals who do not show us respect or who engage in negative behaviors. In such situations, it can be incredibly tempting to respond with anger, defensiveness, or hostility, but this only perpetuates a cycle of negativity and conflict. Instead, responding with compassion and wisdom allows us to break this cycle and engage with others in a way that promotes healing and understanding. One of the most powerful aspects of responding with compassion and wisdom is that it allows us to maintain our dignity and integrity even when others act in ways that are hurtful or disrespectful. When we respond to negative behavior with compassion, we are not condoning or excusing it. Rather, we are choosing to rise above it and respond in a way that reflects our values and our commitment to treating others with kindness and respect. This doesn't mean that we accept mistreatment or allow ourselves to be harmed, but it does mean that we approach difficult situations with a sense of calm and understanding, seeking to understand the other person's perspective before reacting. Responding with compassion and wisdom also involves a deep sense of emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is the ability to maintain our emotional balance in the face of adversity or stress. It is the capacity to not be easily swayed by external circumstances or the behavior of others, but instead to remain grounded in our own sense of self and our core values. When we respond with compassion and wisdom, we are better able to navigate the challenges of life without being overwhelmed by negative emotions such as anger, frustration, or resentment. We learn to take a step back, breathe, and assess a situation from a place of emotional clarity, allowing us to respond in a way that is calm, constructive, and mindful. One of the keys to responding with compassion and wisdom is the ability to listen deeply. Listening is an often overlooked but vital component of effective communication and conflict resolution. Too often, we listen with the intent to respond or to defend our position, rather than truly hearing what the other person is saying. Deep listening involves being fully present in the moment, giving the other person our undivided attention, and making an effort to understand their perspective without judgment. This kind of listening creates a safe space for the other person to express themselves and helps us to gain a clearer understanding of their feelings, needs, and motivations. When we listen deeply, we are better able to respond with compassion and wisdom because we have a more complete understanding of the situation. It is important to recognize that responding with compassion and wisdom does not mean that we ignore or suppress our own emotions. On the contrary, it is about acknowledging our emotions and allowing ourselves to feel them, but choosing not to be controlled by them. It is about recognizing that while our emotions are valid, they do not have to dictate our behavior. For example, if someone disrespects us or treats us unfairly, it is natural to feel hurt, angry, or frustrated. However, responding with compassion and wisdom means acknowledging those feelings and choosing to respond in a way that is constructive rather than reactive. It means resisting the impulse to lash out or retaliate, and instead taking a moment to breathe, reflect, and consider the best way to handle the situation. Responding with compassion also involves recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles, even if we cannot see them. We may not always know the full story behind someone's behavior, and it is important not to jump to conclusions or make assumptions based on limited information. Often people who are disrespectful or hurtful are doing so out of their own pain, frustration, or insecurity. When we respond with compassion, we are acknowledging that their behavior may be a reflection of their internal struggles, rather than an intentional attack on us. This doesn't mean that we excuse their behavior, but it does mean that we approach the situation with empathy and understanding, rather than reacting from a place of anger or judgment. In addition to compassion, wisdom also plays a crucial role in how we respond to difficult situations. Wisdom allows us to see beyond the immediate emotional reaction and consider the broader implications of our actions. When we respond with wisdom, we take the time to assess the situation carefully and thoughtfully, considering both the short-term and long-term consequences of our response. We ask ourselves what the most constructive and peaceful course of action would be, and we choose to act in a way that aligns with our values and our long-term goals. Wisdom also involves knowing when to let go. Sometimes, the wisest response to a situation is to disengage or walk away, especially when the other person is unwilling or unable to engage in a respectful and constructive manner. In such cases, responding with compassion and wisdom means recognizing that we cannot control the behavior of others, but we can control how we choose to respond. Our goal, nevertheless, is that we do what is inherently right, not to do what is indulgent or immorality. We may choose to disengage from a toxic conversation or situation, not because we are weak or unwilling to stand up for ourselves, but because we recognize that continuing to engage in negativity will only perpetuate the conflict and harm our own peace of mind. In some cases, responding with compassion and wisdom may involve setting boundaries. Compassion does not mean allowing others to treat us poorly or disrespectfully. In fact, responding with compassion can sometimes mean firmly asserting our boundaries and standing up for ourselves in a way that is calm, clear, and respectful. When we set boundaries, we are communicating to others that while we value them as human beings, we also value our own well-being and will not tolerate behavior that diminishes our self-respect or emotional health. Ultimately, responding with compassion and wisdom is about choosing the higher road. It is about rising above the reactive tendencies that can often lead to conflict and instead approaching others with a mindset that seeks understanding, healing, and connection. It is a practice that requires patience, self-discipline, and a commitment to personal growth. When we respond with compassion and wisdom, we create a space for healing and transformation, both for ourselves and for others. We break the cycle of negativity and invite peace, respect, and mutual understanding into our relationships and interactions. This approach not only leads to more harmonious relationships, but also contributes to our own emotional resilience and sense of inner peace. In conclusion, when dealing with people who don't respect you, it's essential to maintain your integrity, set clear boundaries, and respond with compassion and wisdom. These principles, taught by Myles Munroe, not only help you preserve your dignity, but also transform the way you interact with others. Remember, respect is not something you demand. It's something you command through your actions, words, and the way you carry yourself. Thank you for your time, and may you continue to walk in wisdom, respect, and grace in all your relationships.